Shalom, Israel. It is the third Charles D., also known as Kasamak. Greetings to the 12 tribes of Israel scattered to the four corners of the earth. Come to you today to talk just a few minutes on the subject of tribulation or trials and tribulation, and hopefully to encourage someone who might be going through, because at some point we all will go through a trial and tribulation. So first, I'd like to show you what the Messiah himself said about tribulation. This is the book of John, chapter 16, verse 33. He says, "These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world ye shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world." So Messiah said that a lot of the things, or all of the things that he told us, that he spoke to us, was that we would have peace in him, because he knew that in this world, in this life, we would have tribulations, but we are to be of good cheer because he's overcome the world. So my question then became, well, what is the purpose of tribulation? Why do we have tribulation? He said we would have it, and that is a guarantee. Well, then James gives us some insight into why we have tribulation. So in James chapter 1, and I like flipping. I could have bookmarks ready to go so I could go right to it, but I figured you take some time to find it as well, so I'm a flip to it. But look at verse 3. It says, verse 2, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience." Now, if you look up the word trial in the dictionary, obviously when we think of trial, we think of the law, the courts, and the purpose of a trial is to determine one's innocence or guilt according to that law. But what was interesting is when I looked up tribulation, the definition was actually like a severe trial. And so what James is saying here is when we fall into, we know that he says that a lot of times the temptations is drawn about by our own lust, but not every temptation. So when we fall into diverse temptations, that our faith is being tried. But the purpose of our faith being tried is what? To worketh patience, so that we would have patience. So then the question becomes, well, what do we need patience for? Why do we need patience? Well, that's found in my Bible anyway, just one page over, back in Hebrews chapter 12. Look what it says. "Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us. Why? And let us run with patience the race that is set before us." We need patience to run this race. Why do we need patience to run this race? Ecclesiastes chapter 9. Let's go there. Ecclesiastes chapter 9 gives us a reason or an idea to why we need patience to run this race. Look at verse 11. "I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift." So this race we're running, it ain't given to the fastest, nor the battle to the strong. So the battles that we fight, are the tribulations that we go through, it ain't about being the strongest. "Neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill. But time and chance happeneth to them all." Meaning it's going to take time. This race is going to take time, and we need patience to get through this race, because we can be very good about beating ourselves up if we fall, if we sin, if we make a mistake, if we don't get something right. We're good about beating ourselves up, not realizing that this thing's going to take some time. Yes, we're at the last days. We're in the last seconds, some might say, in the last days. But that does not mean that we're supposed to put any added pressure on ourselves. We already have enough. We already are going to go through tribulation, and it's only going to get worse before it gets better for some of us, or most of us, that are following these laws, commandments, and statutes, who have faith in the Messiah. So we need patience to run this race of having faith in Messiah and keeping these laws, because there is a separation that is definitely happening. And what Ecclesiastes is saying is this race takes time. But something else Messiah said, he said it in two places, Matthew chapter 10 and Matthew 24. He said the same thing in both. So I'll go to 24 since I'm here, and look at verse 13. What did he say? He said, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. That's what he said. And he said the same thing in Matthew chapter 10, verse 22. He said, if you make it to the end, then you'll be saved. That's going to take patience, and it's going to take endurance. And if anybody's ever played a sport, when you train, you have to train for endurance. Basketball, football, those kind of sports, soccer. The more you run, if you're running a race, marathons, even sprints, even fast-paced races that have to do with speed, you still need endurance, because you want to run as fast as you can for as long as you can. But this race that we're in is not a sprint. We know it's a marathon. And so we need endurance. So to sum it all up, in Galatians chapter 6, starting at verse 7, I want us to see what's being said here. It says, be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he reap. Now, I've always thought of this in terms of what I sow into other people or into the world. If I do something to somebody, the same thing is going to come back to me. And that is true. But I think oftentimes we don't think about this inwardly. What I sow into myself, I'm going to reap. If I sow patience, then I'll reap patience. If I sow impatience, then I will reap impatience. Well, how do I sow that, you might say? When you're given the opportunity through tribulation, you get to decide how you're going to respond, how you're going to react. Are you going to react with patience and seek the Father for wisdom on how to deal with something? Or are you going to simply react and blow your top and be impatient and try to take matters into your own hands? What are you sowing into your own life? Look at verse 8. For he that soweth to the flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. So are you sowing anger and malice, and you blow your top, you go black and you can't think and you just reacting? That's sowing to the flesh. And you're going to reap corruption if you do that. But he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. Peace, patience, kindness, exercising those characteristics, sowing into your spirit. And a lot of that goes back to living out these laws, statutes, and commandments, because you're doing your best to live as the Most High told you to live. And then that fruit, the fruit of the Spirit, begins to manifest in your life. Verse 9. So let us not be weary in well-doing. What's the well-doing? What it was just talking about. Sowing into the Spirit, into our spirit lives. Don't be weary in well-doing. For in due season we shall reap if we faint not. If we're patient and we continue to do what is right, we continue to reap patience, sow patience, sow kindness, sow love. If we're patient, even through the tribulations, even through the trials and through the hard times, if we're patient and don't faint, we will reap what we have sown. Be encouraged, Israel. In this world, you will have tribulations, but they're not without purpose. They're not without a plan. Let patience have her perfect work so that you can endure to the end. Shalom.